I suggest you shut your mouth.
Highland Games Boba Fett.
The wife and I are gonna have to have a talk.
The 7-Eleven out there in Hoth somewhere.
That's not how fire works.
Are we using the leather?
That's like me saying Taco Bell hasn't killed me yet, so I keep eating there.
Hello, welcome to Galactic Initiative. I'm your host, Jeff. Grand Admiral Sean is here. Welcome, Sean.
Hello, my friend.
David is here. Welcome, David.
Hello, sir.
Check out our previous shows. I posted links in the description. Now let's begin our discussion of Season 2, Chapter 13, The JEDI, written by Dave Filoni, directed by Dave Filoni. Din Djarin met Ahsoka Tano on Corvus. Morgan Elsbeth, a lieutenant of Imperial Grand Admiral Thrawn, held the city of Caladan. The Mando and Jedi discussed the child, whose name was revealed to be Grogu, then teamed up to drive out the evildoers. Michael Biehn appeared as Elsbeth's subordinate Lang. After their victory, Ahsoka instructed Din Djarin to visit Tython to locate an old Jedi temple. Despite his protests, Ahsoka refused to train Grogu. Thoughts?
Well, we finally get to see live action Ahsoka Tano. I believe the most beloved Clone Wars character, and also the brainchild of Dave Filoni. But I think everybody was so pumped up and excited to see her. Personally, I think she nailed it. I know a lot of people were hoping to have the other actress, Eckstein, play her, but I think she pulled it off nicely. It was great to finally get some more information, background story, how Grogu was trained, but they didn't mention how Grogu escaped the purge. Yeah.
She mentions that he was trained at the temple and then that he was taken away from there right before, Anakin shows up and kills everybody up.
Yeah. So it was nice to get that background. Also nice to get Grogu's real name. I felt like this episode moved the plot, Grogu's storyline forward, and the revelation of Ahsoka was still looking for Thrawn. That name, when that popped up, that opened up a whole another universe of possibilities, which got me pretty excited.
I enjoyed the episode. Again, there was very small elements of moving the overarching Mandalorian story along. He gets the next clue. Yeah, this is the Mandalorian model is land on planet, interact with someone, perform a task for them in order to get information to move along, and that's pretty much every episode of this show. Now, was it awesome? And was it really fun to watch? And was it visually very compelling episode? Absolutely. Of course, it's Ahsoka Tano, right? Again, one of my favorite characters. She, grew on me, throughout the Clone Wars, initially in the motion picture and in the early episodes. I really didn't like her as a character, but she definitely grew on me. Loved her in Rebels. The later seasons of Clone Wars, she was fantastic. And yes, once again, another one of Dave Filoni's creations on live action, but this is the one I'm probably least cynical about showing up in an episode. My hope has always been that we would see these Clone Wars characters. I mean, I would love to see how they do a Captain Rex in real life. I don't know if that would ever happen, but I love seeing Ahsoka Tano. I love the interactions with her and Grogu. Yes, we learned Grogu's name. Am I excited about it? Maybe. I don't know. It's growing on me. I still call him Baby Yoda all the time. It reestablishes or emphasizes or calls out the connection now that Grogu and Din Djarin have. I thought that Ahsoka's denial of the request to train Grogu was believable and meaningful. The reason why, and it's a throwaway line almost, if you're not really paying attention, like you don't really recognize the intense nature of the statement that she makes and the real heartache that she has behind it. But when she says, I've seen what these types of attachments can do to a Jedi, and she's fully telling you about Anakin becoming Vader. She talks a lot about fear and attachment and all this stuff, but she's really kind of projecting, or she's, deflecting from her own inner turmoil on this topic, his fall and her part in that, and the responsibility that she feels. And this is the thing that we got in the Rebels series, that, she feels partially responsible for his turn. She had stuck with the Jedi Order and stayed with him as his Padawan, that she could have potentially stopped him from becoming Darth Vader. Last time we saw her, she was basically fighting Darth Vader at a Sith temple. And then she kind of goes off on her quest to find Ezra Bridger. She's got this really deep wound about Anakin becoming Vader and what he's done. And her fear, which is not a very Jedi trait, and I know she's already said she's not a Jedi, and I get all that, but the fear that she's expressing in that moment with that statement, that she neither feels qualified nor is she prepared for the consequences if she doesn't do it right. And it's just her being conversational with Din Djarin, but for the people who have followed all of Star Wars, it's a big moment. And she feels like she might, if not doing her job correctly, might actually be responsible for bringing the Sith back into the world, or the universe or whatever. So again, there was some really great stuff there. The dialogue, conversations about Din Djarin and Grogu and their relationship, and her responsibility as a Jedi. And then, yes, to David's point, as soon as somebody says Grand Admiral Thrawn, I'm like jumping out of my chair going, hell yeah. That means hopefully we're going to see him at some point in a live action show, hopefully in the Ahsoka Tano show. I can't wait for that. I'm looking forward to it. And those two things right there to me are huge. But I mean, there's all kinds of other great stuff. Michael Biehn, or Biehn, or however you say his last name. I mean, he's a sci-fi stalwart. He's been in so many great movies, including Aliens and Terminator and Leviathan and all that sort of stuff. And I was happy to see him involved in this project. And he plays a good character, and he does a pretty good job at it. I love the visuals of this episode, the darkness, the sort of foggy kind of industrial wasteland thing that's going on there. And then you contrast that with the administrator's compound, which is a Zen garden and green and lush and beautiful. And there's a lot to love about this episode. On the grand scale of the Mandalorian season, was it the best episode? Probably not. It moves it a little bit. But as a standalone episode, it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot.
You've got the bad and the good, and how you interpret it. And like Sean was saying, she's struggling with her role in the Force and whether she needs to be a Jedi or whatever. Or is there a moral compass for the Force?
The conversations about the Jedi Order and the Force at that point, and in fandom, or people who do critical analysis of the literary content of Star Wars, I mean, the Jedi and the Force are kind of like religion and faith. And the Jedi focusing on the brand or the rules of the Force kind of forgot about the Force itself. And that's why I say they're the religion, and that faith is the Force, right? Belief or whatever, right? And so that being focused on whether or not you're wearing the right shirt on Sunday, or you crossed yourself the right way, or you did the right thing, or you ate the right food, or you didn't do this, or you abstained from that, it really takes you off the real reason why you started all that to begin with. And so I think that Ahsoka leaving the Jedi Order was a referendum kind of on what the Jedi had become. It's not that she became less light side. She just became less obsessed with the protocols of the light side. She started listening to the Force again. I think that in this way, she became much more like Qui-Gon. Qui-Gon was not a Jedi master, or he wasn't on the council because he didn't follow the rules, right? He didn't tie his shoes the right way, and he didn't eat fish on Fridays. So he was not allowed he wasn't allowed on the council. But he was the only guy that really kind of understood what the Force was all about. And if we had listened to him more, perhaps the fate of the Jedi would have been a little different. And I think that she takes on that mantle of the Qui-Gon school of thought. Be mindful of the Force, listen to the Force, yes, listen to the other Jedi Masters too and hang out with your buddies, but at the same time, they're not the Force, right? The Force is the Force. It's not about the brown robes, and it's not about the Jedi Temple, and it's not about what color your lightsaber is, right? And so, in that way, I guess if you want to call that a moral compass or whatever, I think it's just. So I don't know, where's the morality in that? I guess not choosing is a choice, but at the same time, to not choose is probably the least principled of choices. I don't know. May the Force be with you.
Few details. Morgan Elsbeth, played by Diana Lee Inosanto, who is the goddaughter of Bruce Lee. Din Djarin, for his efforts, receives the Beskar Spear, which will come in extremely handy in the season finale. He needs it. Ahsoka didn't reveal her departure from the Jedi Order, which is interesting. So we know that she's not a part of it. And we recognize in her lightsabers no green and no blue, but she doesn't explain to Din Djarin that she's no longer a Jedi. Maybe for the sake of time. Grogu, his backstory, right, trained in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. We really don't have an explanation for what's happened to him between that time and the Mandalorian rescuing him. And then finally, to confirm the Grand Admiral Thrawn connections, the HK-87 droids have Thrawn's fleet logo on their heads. So between Morgan Elsbeth and the HK-87 droids, and yes, Thrawn will be a thing. We are going to see Thrawn at some point. Again, I have a feeling he's going to be a culminating, summative bad guy for a few series, the way in the early 90s when the original Timothy Zahn trilogy came out. I think maybe that's where Dave Filoni wants to see this go. Well, and Favreau too, for that matter.
That would be fantastic. I mean, that if you can pack that into the 30-year span between Return of the Jedi and those other films, you might redeem the franchise a bit. But I don't know if you end that. So that trilogy then ends on a high note, and then what? Then we have the First Order. Like, we still have to account for that garbage. And so I don't know. I mean, I would love to see them just do something in and I use air quotes, alternate timeline, ? Right? Like that maybe we get that trilogy and then that other trilogy could have been a world between worlds scenario. Yeah, the original, Heir to the Empire and those other novels that Timothy Zahn put out in the 90s would be a good sequel to the original trilogy films.
I don't think we're going to get any movies anytime soon. I think we're going to be stuck with TV.
If there's one thing I need to see in live action, it's the Purgils. So if you can promise me Thrawn as a way to get to the Purgils, I'm all in. Let's do it.
Well, and then, David would be excited about the Mara Jade scenario. So
as long as she's a redhead.
That's kind of her character, David. So.
Well, I know. Well, you never know. They might
Bryce Dallas Howard as Mara Jade.
Leather?
I mean, don't misunderstand. We're more
are we using the leather?
All right, slow down.
There's only leather, David. If it's canonical, it's leather, okay?
Ready for Chapter 14?
Let's go.
Here we go. Chapter 14, The Tragedy, written by Jon Favreau, directed by Robert Rodriguez. Boba Fett and Moff Gideon tracked Din Djarin to the planet Tython, while Grogu communed with the Force in the ruins of an old Jedi temple. The Mando negotiated with Fett and Fett's new sidekick, Fennec Shand, and battled 2 squads of stormtroopers. During the fighting, Boba Fett claimed his armor from the Razor Crest and helped Din Djarin. Though the trio defeated the stormtroopers, Moff Gideon's cruiser blasted the Razor Crest and his dark troopers captured Grogu. From the Mando's belongings, only the Beskar Spear survived. Din Djarin, Boba Fett, and Fennec Shand flew to Navarro, where the Mando asked Cara Dune to liberate Miggs Mayfeld from prison. That's the summary. All right, let's hear from you guys.
Well, it is the shortest episode of the season at running time of 34 minutes. Another person seems to be resurrected from the dead. Fennec Shand is still alive, and she is now Boba Fett's sidekick. Not a fan of somebody coming back from the dead, but that seems to be a growing trend in Star Wars. Quite a few things that I did not like. The Razor Crest getting blown up, a week after I purchased the toy. The treatment of the stormtroopers, like Jeff has already spoken about, I had a big problem with that. If these guys are trained troopers and they're seasoned, but again, they pretty much get taken out. Boba Fett takes quite a few of them out, which I get. You do need to build his character up a little bit, but you're making the stormtroopers a lot less menacing, and I was not a big fan. The other thing I did not really like is introducing new Force or Jedi things. I mean, you put Grogu on this rock, and he's all of a sudden there's this Force shield that appears around him, and you can't interact with him, and he's in this trance. Just seemed really weird to me. I don't understand the Force anymore. I don't understand what is acceptable, what is not. I'm even more thoroughly confused than I was after The Rise of Skywalker. Finally, we're starting to move forward with Boba Fett, maybe learning a little bit more about him. Nice to see him back in action. Glad to see he was able to get his armor back. Not a big fan of this episode. And that's it.
So I will start by saying this is the third episode in a row that is a commercial for another show that is coming on Disney Plus. Subscribe today. Rangers of the New Republic with Cara Dune, followed up by Ahsoka Tano, followed by The Book of Boba Fett. We have an 8-episode season for Mandalorian, and we spent 3 episodes advertising 3 shows, one of which has been canceled, one of which is somewhere in production, and one that will be premiering shortly after this show debuts. So, again, it was nice to see some of these characters. It was nice, but at the same time, we're writing full episodes in order to promote spin-off shows. It feels like a later season of The X-Files. Having said that, it was a mediocre episode. I don't have the Force issues like David has. I've given up on trying to understand the Force. I'll get something Force-E from Star Wars, and I'm sure they'll explain it away in a 6-issue comic book story, a YA novel, and perhaps the back of a cereal box. So we'll figure it out one of these days what this Force phone booth is that Grogu finds himself in, but Ahsoka apparently knows about it, so clearly it's something that has come before. But we've seen plenty of stuff like this pop up. The Clone Wars was notorious for giving us temples and holocrons and all kinds of other things that we hadn't really dealt with in Star Wars before to that point. Some of it is terrible. Some of it shouldn't happen. Again, Rise of Skywalker. Boo. This is a continuation of the conversation with Ahsoka, right? Put him on the rock, have him make a Force call. Somebody will show up and help him. I'm not going to help you. Okay, great. So we get there, we put him on the Force rock, he makes the call. In the meantime, hilarity ensues with the stormtroopers. Boba Fett shows up and does Boba Fett things and still manages to kill all the stormtroopers. And then we've got dead Fennec Shand come back, and she's got a belly full of pistons and pulleys that she can conveniently show us with her tearaway belt line. And then we blow up the Razor Crest shortly after it's fully funded on HasLab. And Kathleen Kennedy laughs and laughs and laughs at all the fanboy tears because people like David spent a whole bunch of money buying it, and then she blew it up. We've already established stormtroopers are ill-treated in this series. The yellow stormtrooper with the mortar, that's just a cash grab to sell action figures. I ordered 2. We had to establish 2 things. Yoda makes his call, and then we have to capture Baby Yoda so that then we can affect the finale of the series, which is to rescue Baby Yoda. And then we establish that Boba Fett is alive, well, and kicking, and that he's a friend to Din Djarin, at least in the fact that he gave his word and he will keep it. Moff Gideon spent a significant amount of time, or we as viewers of the show spent a significant amount of time having this tracker put on Din Djarin's ship. Yet he doesn't know that he's not on the ship when he blows it up. And now he has effectively blinded himself to the movements and the actions of Din Djarin again. And it's a weird oversight in the plot that really bothers me. If your troops fail and you've already captured Baby Yoda, why blow up the ship? Not because you think that he's going to effectively chase you, but don't don't blow up the ship, because now you know exactly where he is. Like, you can outwit him, outthink him, and stay one step ahead of him for the rest of whatever your plan is. But now you don't know where he's at. You don't know where he's going, because you destroyed your one means of tracking Din Djarin and knowing where he's at. And so I felt like that was really weird. Other than that, it's a great episode.
We have the convenience of the missing jetpack, so Mando cannot prevent Grogu's capture by the Dark Troopers. There's some talk about chain codes, Jango Fett's chain code, and it proves that the armor belongs to Boba Fett, and Jango Fett was, as it turns out, a true Mandalorian. Tython has a weird history in the comics, in Legends. There's a series about the planet, essentially like an origin story. Godlike beings bringing representatives across the galaxy to Tython. I kept thinking about this weird comic series, how strange it was, how it really didn't belong in Star Wars. And yet here's Tython in live action. More portrayals of stormtroopers as completely incompetent. Yes, this really moved to the point of comedic, with the rolling boulder and the gaffy stick. We got to see a cruiser use its turbo lasers from atmosphere to destroy the Razor Crest. And we got the first scene of the Dark Troopers in action. And they fly now. No, they always flew. But my short list of observations.
Yeah, it was a little forgettable. And this new look for Boba Fett, I'm not really a big fan of.
Boba Fett, the Scottish Games?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Highland Games Boba Fett. Yeah.
Yep,
So
there you go. Nice.
Yeah, with the kilt and it's not even really a kilt. It's really like he's totally just chilling in a robe. It's like he's wearing a Snuggie, Snuggie Fett. Yeah, I find it funny. David's mad about everybody coming back from the dead except Boba Fett, because he was dead too, for all intents and purposes. So, but yeah, so we got.
Yes and no. He wasn't. I mean, I think we all kind of assumed that he would survive, especially since he still had his jetpack. But yes, I mean, he's, I guess, Exhibit 1A in terms of a long line of people coming back.
Maybe we'll get some more exposition on that in the Book of Boba Fett. I don't know.
All right, so I guess we're ready for Chapter 15? Yeah, I guess
Roll
we
it.
are. Chapter 15, The Believer, writer and director Rick Famuyiwa. After Cara Dune took Migs Mayfeld into protective custody from the Carthon chop fields, the crew went to an Imperial mining operation on the planet Morak. Mayfeld needed an Imperial computer terminal to find Moff Gideon's cruiser. Din Djarin and Mayfeld assumed Imperial disguises, infiltrated the facility, and located the ship. Before fleeing, Din Djarin removed his helmet, and Mayfeld shot an old commanding officer, Valen Hess. Once safely away, Cara Dune and the Mando freed Mayfeld.
This is one of my favorite episodes. I mean, from the skiff chase to the conversation that took place inside. What's the while they were driving
the Juggernaut.
The Juggernaut. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I like the background, and shore troopers showed up. That was kind of cool. But I also thought it was pretty cool that we actually saw the gyro inside of Slave One. I thought that was pretty cool, because we had never seen any other part except for the cockpit of Slave One. So to be able to see the actual gyro moving and stuff like that, I thought that was pretty sweet.
Yeah, there was some very good moments in this episode. I think that Mayfeld's story arc was excellent in this. He becomes a more sympathetic character than when we meet him in season 1. Clearly, he's a guy who has a conscience, and he's been struggling with, his Imperial service and what happened there. And he kind of makes some jokes about it at the end, but he has a very cathartic experience there on that planet, killing a lot of Imperials and expunging some of those bad feelings. I do enjoy the scene in the officer's mess, the whole conversation about the war and the decisions his commanding officer made, and the murder of civilians and the execution of Imperial troops. The officer, the character, was played very well. He came across as a very callous and almost soulless Imperial officer. The episode's called The Believer, and it's like, who's the believer in this episode, right? What is that referring to? Is it referring to Din Djarin, who is starting to modify his beliefs, right? He's starting to step away from the very orthodox and hardline view of the Sons of the Watch. He's taking off his helmet in order to do the right thing. Is it Mayfeld, who's also abandoned his earlier beliefs, at least try to right some of the wrongs that the Empire has inflicted upon the universe? Or is it the Imperial officer himself, who, despite everything and despite being presented with overwhelming evidence that he is evil and that the Empire is evil and that their actions are evil, that he gleefully celebrates them and drinks toasts to the Empire and its success in combat? It's an interesting question. Who is the believer here, or are they all believers, or are none of them believers? But again, it's the whole episode is based on a really contrived plot point. Got to get to an Imperial terminal. And then the only Imperial terminal you can find in the universe is in the heart of an explosives manufacturing plant that has an armored division and a reinforced battalion of troops in it. And you got to sneak in. Like, you couldn't find one at like the 7-Eleven out there in Hoth somewhere. But anyway, it was decent. I thought, again, we had a lot of fun little things show up in there with the various Imperial vehicles and the uniforms. And like David said, the inside of Slave One was really cool, and being able to kind of see how that ship works.
I'll mention Richard Brake. He played Valen Hess. Well done. Mayfeld uses Boba Fett's cycler rifle, which is the cheap slug throwing rifle, to destroy the refinery with a well-placed shot into one of the juggernauts. Sean, I had the same thought about the title of the episode and who it pertained to. And of course, ladies getting it done, killing everyone on the roof, everyone coming out of the building.
Well, yeah. Wait till next episode.
Didn't leave any for Mayfeld and Din Djarin to take out. Bill Burr, honorable mention. Well done.
2 thumbs up. He's awesome.
Some performance here.
Yeah,
I see. Unlike Sean, I liked him in the first season.
Oh, I that was my favorite episode of season 1. The Prisoner. That was awesome.
That's good. It was a good one.
Well,
he's playing himself, but
yes, yeah. Well, that's part of it. That episode in season 1 was fantastic, and it was one of the best episodes in season 1. Don't get me wrong. I just found him annoying, and I didn't like his character. But in this particular episode, his acting, again, to Jeff's point, was fantastic. We saw growth and change, and we saw backstory, and we got all these things where it made him a more well-rounded person than just a smart-ass former sharpshooter in the Empire. Now I'm interested in his character and seeing more about his character. But at the end of the first one, I was like, yeah, great, he's in prison. We don't have to deal with this jerk anymore.
I'll be interested to see if they bring back any of these guys for Book of Boba Fett. I mean, he's somebody that could definitely return.
The Book of Boba Fett is going to be an interesting puzzle or an interesting riddle, because you're dealing with a bad guy who is now the protagonist in a story about a bunch of bad guys. He's trying to create a criminal empire that's built on respect and trust and fair play. What is that all about? That's called the government. I don't know. Like, what is the point of this series? And Jeff had mentioned this earlier. Yeah, we could bring back some of these other characters, but if these people show up, then we have some moral ambiguity here and some gray area that needs to be dealt with. And maybe it'll be explained in a plot, but unless they're allying with, Law and Order and the good guys, then they have regressed. We saw Bill Burr's character come to a point where he's still an insufferable smartass, but he's now on the side of good. And Grief Karga, same thing. He has left the more criminal, daily things to be a legit administrator of a small town and building it up to be something positive and good. So if you take those people and you put them in the service of Boba Fett, then they have regressed. How does that happen? Now, again, it could be explained. Maybe Boba Fett shows up to do all this stuff because he's actually trying to rid Tatooine of the criminal elements, and he's trying to lure them into a trap, and it's very Machiavellian in his plan or whatever. I don't know, but if that's the case, then I could see those other people showing up. But if it's not the case, then it becomes a problem for the character development that we've seen over the first 2 seasons of The Mandalorian.
All right. Final episode, Chapter 16, The Rescue. Written by Jon Favreau, directed by Peyton Reed. The heroes captured Dr. Pershing from an Imperial shuttle, then used the shuttle to infiltrate Moff Gideon's cruiser. On the way, they picked up Bo-Katan and Casca Reeves. Dr. Pershing provided the locations of the Dark Troopers and Grogu. Din Djarin went after the latter. Bo-Katan, Casca Reeves, Cara Dune, Fennec Shand took the bridge. The Mando narrowly escaped the Dark Troopers' activation by opening an airlock. When he found Grogu in the brig, he fought and defeated Moff Gideon, thereby earning the Darksaber. Bo-Katan was angry with Moff Gideon and Din Djarin for disrupting her plans to regain the famous weapon. The Dark Troopers flew back to the cruiser and cornered the heroes before an X-Wing arrived. A cloaked figure with a green lightsaber destroyed all the Dark Troopers en route to the bridge. When the doors opened, Luke Skywalker revealed himself. The Mando took off his helmet to part from Grogu, R2-D2 appeared, and Luke took Grogu for training. In a post-credit scene, Boba Fett killed Bib Fortuna in Jabba's palace on Tatooine. I suggest you shut your mouth.
Got it.
As bad guys, it's this shuttle pilot and Valen Hess.
Pretty much. Well, and then the other guy, the other officer, right, from the Eris episode.
Yeah, he was willing to take the cruiser down.
He wouldn't be taken prisoner, died for the Empire, he killed his own people and was willing to destroy his ship and himself in order to keep the weapons out of the hands of the enemy of the Empire. The only thing worse than the Empire not having guns is giving guns to the enemy, right? So
to the enemy, yeah.
I liked him, and he had a plan too. His subordinates were the ones that failed him. He said, "Look, you protect the bridge," and they're like, "Okay, we'll go to the cargo hold and get blown out the airlock." That's not what I asked.
Not really menacing in my mind.
Well, true. I wouldn't say he was menacing, but you want to talk about who the believer was in this show? That guy was the believer.
All right. Well, a lot of emotion for this episode. First big question that I had was, you had Bo-Katan, you had Casca Reeves. Where is the gentleman that was hanging out with them? Did they just kick him to the curb? I don't understand. Did they even mention it?
Yeah, because Casca Reeves needed to beat up Boba Fett.
Yeah, okay. That's what I kind of thought. Yeah, so
he was mansplaining how to put on your Mandalorian armor.
Yeah. It was a good episode. Not my favorite. If I'd rank them 1 to 8, it was like my 4th favorite episode, and I think it had more to do with how the episode ended with Skywalker and R2-D2 showing up. I did like the Mandalorians shooting the stormtroopers basically by using their jetpacks, swooping up on the scaffold and taking them out that way. Luke taking out all the dark troopers was kind of cool, and actually for once, I guess, superior Jedi powers. To see that his skills have elevated, that was actually kind of nice to see. All in all, gets us to the end, but there's more left on the plate so that we want the next season, next episode. A lot more questions to be answered. I like how it ended. Nice way of ending it. I'm excited to see what is to come with The Mandalorian without Grogu. We can, I guess, focus more on The Mandalorian, especially since Bo-Katan is not exactly excited about somebody else wielding the Darksaber. So that's it.
So the return of Luke Skywalker, and all you got is it was a pretty good episode. Okay then.
Well, so to be fair, Sean, I've tried to do a very good job of not reading spoilers, not seeing anything on the internet prior to watching the episode. So the morning of, I'm looking at the different websites just to read my morning news, just to kind of get my day started, which I normally do. And one of the websites totally ruined it for me. I mean, and it's not a case of clicked on something just out of curiosity and like scanned through. the picture, as I clicked on the website, when I scrolled down to look at some of the different links and stuff like that, it had a picture of Luke. So the dramatic effect was gone for me. And honestly, like that CGI really, it took me out of the moment. And I think that's why I was just so like, meh, okay. And the other thing is what are you going to really do with this character? You bring him in for what? A minute or two, and then he takes Grogu, and then you never see him again? Which I think is more than likely what's going to happen. For me, I mean, I totally understand where you're coming from. It was, for a lot of people, an emotional experience. You got the feels, whatever. But that is unfortunately what happened, and that's why I was not as excited about the situation as a lot of other people were.
Well, I did initially struggle with the CGI. We're in this uncomfortable place where all of these actors are old or dead, and we are still trying to tell stories about their characters. So, I'm willing to forgive all that. I mean, I enjoyed this episode a lot. There was a lot going on in it. Again, a lot of it was action, but I think we were talking earlier about Moff Gideon and feeling like he was cheapened as a bad guy. I think that him losing the Darksaber to Din Djarin was planned, or at the very least intended, in the sense that maybe he thought his plan for the way things are going to happen was going to go down differently. But once he found himself in that situation, he understands the import of the Darksaber, what it means to the people of Mandalore. Din Djarin in this whole second season strikes me as incredibly naive and uneducated about a lot of things. It's not like he's pretending to be a Mandalorian. He was raised by fundamentalist Mandalorians, and if you know the story of the Darksaber, he should know about it, what it is, and what his taking it from Moff Gideon really meant. I think that Moff Gideon understood that if he allowed Din Djarin to win the Darksaber, then he was creating a rift for Bo-Katan, right? So she's either going to die trying to take it from the Mando, or she's going to kill the Mando, and either way, that's a good thing for Moff Gideon. It eliminates certain problems in his life, either way. Now, the way this episode ended, outside of the Luke Skywalker situation, we have him in the custody of the New Republic, so Moff Gideon is in the custody of the New Republic. Grogu has been handed off appropriately to people who will take care of him. Din Djarin is now standing there surrounded by Mandalorians, and he has the Darksaber in hand that he won by trial of combat, which makes him the Mandalore. That's all Bo-Katan wants. And so the end of this series sets up for some very interesting stuff. We're going to potentially, and I say potentially because I have no idea, we could potentially have a season focused around the struggle for the reunification of Mandalore and the primacy of who is going to be in charge. Din Djarin has said, I take it, I don't care. Like, I got my own life to live and whatever, and it's not my thing. And she won't accept it. Moff Gideon is gleefully telling the story of why this is a thing. And now, he has positioned these two people to be enemies, whether they wanted to be or not. Maybe that's why we didn't make her so lovey-dovey and sympathetic earlier in the season, because we're setting her up to be the enemy of Din Djarin. I think that it would be a more powerful storyline if we made them friends, or if we made her a more sympathetic and likable character early on, because now it's like a real turn. As David likes to talk about, it's the heel turn, right? Yeah, it's pretty interesting where it takes us now. We know at the very bare minimum that we are going to have a season 3 that is mostly free of Baby Yoda. He is the reason why a lot of people got into Star Wars recently. And so there could be a drop off in viewership, which would be troublesome for Disney and for Star Wars fans, because this show could be canceled. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see where it all heads. But it felt like the season was wrapped up well. The stakes were high. The Dark Troopers were very cool. The only logical end to the situation, after having seen how the Dark Troopers work and how Din Djarin had a very hard time besting one of them, that the only real way to write yourself out of that corner is to have Luke show up and chop them all with a lightsaber. It was extremely satisfying to see powerful Luke, the apex of his Jedi skills, finally, after being thoroughly disappointed by the sequel trilogy. It was nice to see some of the older vehicles again, the X-Wing, the Imperial Shuttle. It had a little something for everybody.
Boba Fett used an ion cannon to disable the shuttle's engines. The Imperial Shuttle pilot talking about Alderaan and how he witnessed the destruction of Kara's planet. When Kara takes her shot, you hear Dr. Pershing cry out. In the next scene, you'll notice the bottom of his right ear is gone. Did not like the fight between Boba Fett and Koska Reeves. Koska Reeves might be a fine Mandalorian, and Boba Fett might be in less than his best physical shape, but here, as with the, say, stormtroopers that we discussed earlier in the episode, do you really want to diminish certain characters? I mean, the fight doesn't need to happen, but when it does happen, do you really want it to be a draw? So you're telling me that Bo-Katan's sidekick from the Night Owls is as good at fighting as Boba Fett. By putting it in the show, they were making a point, and I guess I didn't like the point.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right, because it diminishes Boba Fett. Not good.
Well, maybe the Snuggie got in the way. I don't know. It was a totally unnecessary fight, and the least satisfying thing about that whole deal was the two flamethrowers repelling the flames. Maybe it's too much science in my science fiction, but that was just dumb.
That's not how fire works.
No, that's not how any of this works. I guess we're trying to establish that Bo-Katan references he's a clone, and she knows all the other clones, and she's fought with and against all the other clones, and she knows his voice, and she's heard it before. And I thought that was a great line, a great callback. I don't necessarily think that it would have been an easy win for him, but I think it should have been a win for him. But yeah, it doesn't need to happen. Have a few harsh words. Yeah, you're not a real Mandalorian. No, I am. My dad was a Mandalorian. Okay, great. Whatever. They can make kind of, I don't want to say make fun of Boba Fett, but I mean, they call out the fact that his Mandalorian street cred is sketchy at best. Yes, his father was a Mandalorian. Sorry, George. Yeah, he has Mandalorian armor, but they call out that he never took the creed, right? So while the armor does belong to him by birthright, it doesn't make him a Mandalorian. So he is the odd man out in this situation. However, you would think that these people who are trying to gather like-minded folks together to retake their planet might lay off the criticism and the contentiousness and maybe try and build some bridges as opposed to burn them, maybe establish some alliances with some folks, because pretty sure Boba knows a few things and knows a few people and could probably help them out. So yeah, it did make a lot of sense in the context of that conversation.
Even if she's upset at him for working for the Empire, which he did from time to time, I don't know. And now we'll probably never see Koska Reeves again, and Boba Fett has his own show. It just puts him on a level. I mean, he's supposed to be the galaxy's most feared bounty hunter, and he couldn't beat a sidekick in a restaurant. I say this: don't do this with your characters, I guess, is my advice to the show.
That is true.
So Luke, the return of Luke Skywalker. Obviously, that's the biggest part of the season 2 finale. I very much enjoyed it. Sean and I did a show on it. The show's been out for some time. Even that day, it was no longer a reveal for some. So, do we have anything else to say about Chapter 16?
No, people just need to go listen to that other episode. They can hear a grown man cry about it. That's all.
True. True. And talk about the feels.
Yeah, and I think we've established also that the major problem with David is that he gets his news from Yahoo. That's another conversation. So
I go to all the
And
websites.
he does, and when the season finale of a Star Wars series is available, he doesn't stay up.
Yep.
David, if I had waited, the same thing would have happened to me. But I put in the hours, my friend. I put in the hours.
I'll do better.
True facts. I wasn't going to let anybody spoil it for me either. 12:01 and play.
Yeah, and I did not know about Luke. Obviously, I did not know. Absolutely, all the feels, all the surprise. This is the season finale. Whatever's going to happen here is going to be known across the land. So even if I don't go to a media outlet, someone's going to come to me. I just can't. I can't take those chances.
Yeah, I think the wife and I are gonna have to have a talk for the next season finale. You need to just stay up or take a nap right now, and we're gonna power through this.
Yeah, set some boundaries here, for goodness sake.
Where's the pants in the family, right?
Oh, Boba doesn't wear the pants in the family either, so it's okay.
He wears no pants.
No, he just wears his Snuggie.
I've come for my armor. Half of it.
The upper half, the bottom half doesn't fit so good.
Keep the codpiece.
That's true. He didn't have that, did he? Where did that go?
But he does have the knee. He has got the fancy knee pads. Anyway. And they fire rockets.
Yeah, they whistling bird knee pads or whatever.
Yeah, the whistle. That's what they are. They're whistling bird knee pads. I love it. So, what is your favorite episode from season 2?
Mine was episode 3 or chapter 11.
The Heiress.
Yes.
I have a tie between the Heiress and the Jedi for a lot of different reasons, but I enjoy both of those a lot. The finale was good, and the Luke Skywalker was awesome, but yeah, I'm going to say either the Heiress or the Jedi.
The season finale was my favorite. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
The redemption of Luke Skywalker, gentlemen. The thing that we've needed since 2017. Thank you, Rian Johnson. Say what you will about CGI and plot devices. Favreau and Filoni rescued Luke Skywalker, made him a hero again, and that caused some very strong reactions from me. All good, all positive. So, yeah, season finale is my favorite. David, compliments for season 2? It had more stormtroopers.
It did. It had a lot more stormtroopers, so I gotta appreciate that. I think the simple fact that we actually have Star Wars coming out that isn't necessarily geared towards servicing the sequel series, I think is a plus. Like the fact that they finally brought back Boba Fett. Yeah, I mean, just that we have Star Wars and that it's good Star Wars. It's not crappy Star Wars. I've been entertained. They keep on pumping out good stuff, so I'm gonna keep watching.
Was that really a compliment? So I keep watching.
Suck. How about that? Yeah.
That's like me saying Taco Bell hasn't killed me yet, so I keep eating there. Right?
Well, that's true. It hasn't. It's good stuff.
I will say that this show has what it did for Luke Skywalker, first of all, to Jeff's point, right? It saved Luke Skywalker, redeemed Luke Skywalker. It made him a hero again and not a Jake. But in a broader stroke, this show has saved Star Wars. Somebody like me who's been a lifelong Star Wars fan was ready to quit after The Last Jedi and walk away from this whole thing. It's Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau and them also being fans and being committed to the brand. And so I think that we can't underestimate the significance of the show The Mandalorian. Yeah, we nitpick and we pick on some of the episodes, and we are media consumers and media critics, and we're Star Wars fans and we're Star Wars critics. But on the grand scheme of things, the importance of this show, the overall praise for this series, is it the highest form of television entertainment? Maybe not, but what it means to the brand of Star Wars is almost immeasurable.
All right. Well, I will give my criticisms and compliments back to back. So, overall criticisms of season 2. There's a difference between supporting characters and guest stars. And it moved more quickly and broadly, so it lacked the personalized, localized appeal of season 1. Sand people are villains, not comrades. The comedic incompetence of the Empire continued. Moff Gideon was too easily defeated. My biggest criticism, convenience. Season 2 unfolded like a video game. It's go here and do this plots. Season 1 enjoyed a natural, cohesive narrative. Season 1 fit organically. All right, compliments. Luke Skywalker's return was epic. It made up for many of the season's shortcomings. The special effects continue to amaze. Love the volume. The new ships, Slave One, Moff Gideon's cruiser, a few others were outstanding. Timothy Olyphant, Rosario Dawson, Bill Burr delivered praiseworthy performances. We need more Cobb Vanth. We need more Miggs Mayfeld in the future. We will have more Ahsoka Tano before long. I like Morgan Elsbeth. She had potential to be a credible baddie. I enjoyed the Dark Troopers, not perfect, but entertaining. The show continued to feature aliens, Gamorreans, Quarrens, Twi'leks, Weequay, Zabraks. There were quite a few. Appreciate it. Thank you, Jon Favreau, for the return of Boba Fett. Overall, I must say I enjoyed season 1 more than season 2. From a storytelling perspective, season 1 was better.
I would agree with that. Thinking back on, like you say, some of the supporting cast versus guest stars, that's a big thing. Yeah, we all miss Queel. I was upset when they killed him. That bothered me. IG-11 was fun. Moff Gideon had more to do. The Client was fantastic, and again got killed off. So sadly, we can't have more of that because that performance was top shelf. Probably one of the best supporting characters in the entire series. Yeah, I would say that the writing it was better, and the plotting of the first season and the way that the episodes interacted with one another felt more natural. I definitely get the video game reference. Thinking back on some of the comments that I made about these episodes in the season, it's like Mando lands on planet. It's almost like cutscenes in a video game. There's a conversation about something. You got to go here to go do that, and then there's the action. So you go shoot everybody up, and then at the end there's a cutscene like, "Hey, you made it here. Congratulations, and here's your level up or your whatever, and now go to the next episode." So I definitely feel that season 2, I think, helped expand a few things, but at the same time, it was, I guess, less personal in a way. The first season felt a little more personal and a little more, I don't know. It felt like it was a little more cohesive. I agree with your criticisms and your critiques of it for sure.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm here to validate you, Jeff.
I feel empowered. Right
that way I don't get edited out.
Jeff, that was the greatest ever.
Well, you nodded your way through it, so that's all I need, David. I just need your nods. Our discussion of The Mandalorian Season 2 has come to an end. Thank you, Sean.
I have spoken.
Thank you, David.
Thank you, Jeff.
Links to our previous Mandalorian shows are posted in the description.
May the Force be with you.
Galactic Initiative is not authorized or endorsed by Lucasfilm Limited. The name Star Wars and all related materials are registered trademarks of Lucasfilm Limited, a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Company, all rights reserved. Galactic Initiative is a registered trademark, and other product and company names are trademarks of their respective holders. Use does not imply affiliation or endorsement.